Welcome to Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I'm a home birth mum of 2 little boys, a doula in Melbourne supporting birth at home. I'm a mental health nurse and the co-creator of Homebirth Victoria. If you want to learn more about me, the podcast, or my work, check out www.birthingathome.apodcast. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. I would also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been birthing at home on country for tens of thousands of years prior to the British invasion and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Episode 64 is shared by Amber, who is a mum to 2 home birth babies. Today she shares the fantastic story of the birth of Delilah at 42 plus 5 weeks at home, and then the birth of Bette, who was a planned home birth with midwives but ended up being an accidental free birth at home because the midwives didn't make it in time. We also chat about family-centered birth and changing the narrative around home birth and birth. Enjoy! Welcome, Amber, to Birthing at Home, a podcast.
Hello, how are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We were just catching up because you first reached out to a post I put on Instagram for post dates stories back in July 2024. And this is the second time we're attempting to do this. So I'm really glad to finally be able to hear and share your stories. And you've also had a second home birth in that time. So yes. Even more story to tell. If you would be able to give a bit of backstory to who you are, where you're located, and who's in your family, that would be awesome.
Yes, so, Amber is my name. I live in Springvale currently, and I've got Delilah, who is 2. She was born November 2022, and I've got Bette, who was born last year, 5th of October, so that makes her like 3.5 months, I think, if I can do the maths correctly.
Something like that. Yeah. You must be very, very busy with, basically 2, under 2 almost.
Yeah. So they were 22 or 23 months apart, so pretty close.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting it to be that close, but that's how things happened. So
here we are.
Yes.
And so Delilah was born at 42 plus 5, yeah?
Yes, 42 plus 5 at home. She was born on the same day as my mum and the same day as my doula. So.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That was pretty crazy, having the 3 of them all in the room together.
Wow.
Yeah. So my midwives even were mentioning it. My husband said they looked like a couple of witches standing over the placenta discussing how magical it was that 3 women in the same room, all born on the same day.
Yeah, that is very freaky. That's quite special. I don't know what the chances of that are, but
no, especially because she was late. 42 plus 5. Well, I don't want to use the term late because I don't necessarily think that's correct. But she waited.
That's the date she chose.
The day,
yeah.
Just like her grandma, her Shasha, as she calls her.
That is very, very cool. And we're also reflecting as well that, it's very cool that you've had 2 home births. I guess, how did you even learn about home birth? Do you remember, how you came across it?
Well, I was going to go through the hospital system and I assumed that you could, choose. Basically, I was naive. I didn't know any differently, but I thought you could choose your own hospital that you would have your baby at. I was like, well, I'd like to go. If I went anywhere, I was going to go to Sandringham just because that's where my mum went for all 3 of her kids.
Yeah.
So I basically was just at the start of pregnancy, needed a referral for all of that. And I found out that no, that's not how it works, and the hospital closest to you will contact you. And they never contacted me. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I was left following it up. And in the meantime, I just by chance came across just Homebirth. I think on Instagram. I just started to just go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I just something flipped, and I was like, no, this is what I am going to do. I'm going to have a home birth. And my husband was on board. His auntie had a home birth a long time ago.
Yeah.
So wasn't anything that he was concerned about. I did get a lot of backlash from family and just like other people in my life about how unsafe it is.
Well,
just because I guess that's just ingrained in them to believe and think that.
Yeah.
So I just stood my ground because that's who I am. And if someone tells me I can't do something, it's like, I think I can.
Yeah,
I think I can do what I want. But also it comes down to like that safety factor. People just have this assumption that it's not a safe thing to birth at home and you need the hospital.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just decided, no, I'm going to do this at home, and I got my doctor to give me a referral to organic midwifery.
Yeah.
And that was really smooth.
Wow.
Yeah, she didn't.
Did you so you feel like you probably came across Homebirth on Instagram. Like, how did that, do you remember like growing up or anything, like hearing about Homebirth or having any preconceived ideas about it?
No, nothing whatsoever. No. I mean, apart from my husband, his auntie had a home birth. He's spoken about that before. That might have maybe played a role, or the reason why things came up on Instagram. I can't remember exactly how I came across it, but as soon as I did, I was like, yep, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I also find I've got a bit of white coat syndrome, so my blood pressure gets really like extremely high as soon as I walk into a doctor or anywhere that has that smell. Like dentists have it as well. They've got that weird that smell, and it just gets to me. And I've got just like low blood pressure, so for my blood pressure to go as high as it does, every time they're always really concerned, and I'm like, please give me 5 minutes. I just need to relax. So I just kind of knew that it wouldn't be the safe option for me. And the longer I was in that process of once I chose a home birth, and then I met with the midwives and spoke about all of this, the more I was like, this is 100% the correct direction for me, and is the safest for me and for the baby.
Yeah. Did you do you remember between deciding and then choosing organic midwifery, do you remember like doing like any sort of deep dives or any sort of your own research into home birth to overcome like any of those initial questions that you might have had?
Yeah, well, I found, sorry, it's my daughter.
Okay. Right.
I found just all the information that I needed like through Instagram. It's insane how much is just in that platform. Like everything's right at your fingertips.
Totally.
And just following lots of different pages, a lot of like American pages I seem to have followed as well in the process. Just reading other people's stories, the good and the bad. And nothing really like deterred me from like wanted me to change my mind or anything like that, because there's a hell of a lot of people, like you said, who have like their second or their third or their fourth will be a home birth because of how negative their first experience was in the hospital system.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I didn't want to do that. And I didn't like the idea that you have like a different midwife every time you go to the hospital for your appointment. I was like, it's no real quality of care. You know, it's a different person that you have to then like
re-explain everything to.
And then like you build a relationship with somebody over the appointment and then you never see them again, or you might by chance see them. Or, you know, like you're birthing in hospital and the midwife goes, oh, that's my shift over, and they walk out the door and you're, you know, halfway through pushing a baby out. I just it's just not what I wanted. I didn't want a whole town in my, you know, pregnancy and in my labor.
Of course. And I think, to be fair, like, I feel like most people would I feel like most people can think about an experience that they've had in the healthcare system, or just, I don't know, like really any situation. And when you have to like re-explain your story about why you're there, or your history, or your fears, or your current situation, like I mean, I know mum who had hyperemesis, and so every week she was going in having to get IV fluids, and every week there would be like a different nurse and they'd say, oh, how are you? And she'd say, well, actually I'm not that great. And they'd be like, oh, well, hopefully the medication like helps. And then every week be a different nurse asking the same question, giving the same like commentary back. And it just, you know, she said that, you know, eventually she just started to say, no, I'm fine, I just want to get this done. And like, that's a lie. Like, that's not very safe. But that's amazing that you were able to, like link in with private midwifery, and especially, I guess, to point out before we get into the pregnancy story with Delilah, like in the context of like Delilah's pregnancy, going over, you know, that 42 weeks, having a private midwife means that you can be supported past that, because, you know, here in Victoria and across Australia with the publicly funded Homebirth programs, that is one of the big draw cards, is that you can't go over 42 weeks, otherwise they won't support you. So that's really amazing that you were able to like choose a private midwife.
Well, it's good that, you know, I did go down that path, because otherwise it could have ended in, you know, just an induction and just a domino effect.
Totally.
After that, which is not what I wanted. I didn't want a medicalized birth. I didn't want anyone to touch me.
Yeah.
And I definitely did not want to be at home, you know, having the contractions, going through the whole early labor process, and then getting in the car, driving into some foreign place just because that's how things work. And I was like, and then you have the baby, and then you put the baby in the car, and then you drive home, and it's like, why not just skip all those steps and just stay at home? I don't know why more people don't.
Well, I think like a lot of it is, the negative stories or the misinformation, and the fear mongering. Like, I think, and especially, I mean, social media is obviously very helpful, but it can also, you know, if you end up on the wrong algorithm, then it's a slippery slope, and then you're seeing completely the opposite.
Oh yeah, I've had some full-on comments when I've commented on people asking like, oh, how far along were you? And I've gone, I was 42 and 5. And the comments I get back from some people are just, it's insane. They would even think that's appropriate to write to somebody, and, you know, like, you've got no idea what they're talking about. So,
and I think a lot of the time as well, not on the podcast, obviously, but, you know, just amongst like colleagues or like just, I don't know, out there in the world, you hear and read stories and you think, did it actually happen like that? Like, you know, I feel like there's always so many stories out there that, oh, if I wasn't in the hospital or if I had have gone past 42 weeks, then somebody would have died. Or if I hadn't have done this, then,
Yeah.
well, you know, this would have happened.
It's a if this, if that.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. My mum has said that, you know, if I wasn't in the hospital, I would have died. And I just think, no.
Yeah.
The hospital is what caused the problem. I hate to you know, be the bearer of bad news, but
yeah,
that sounds like is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And so with organic midwifery, I don't know, did they have like a clinic or did they do the home visits or all home visits?
All of them were home visits. I originally contacted, I think it was like Mum and Toto.
Yeah.
They're the ones in Kew.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I contacted somebody else first, but I still felt like it was a little bit too medicalised, even though it was going to be a planned home birth. They had other, you know, just things that they stipulated, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get the right feeling from them.
Yeah.
So I got in contact with Mal from Organic Midwifery, and I had Ramona as my backup, and I used them for both my pregnancies.
Oh, wow. That's very, very cool. Excellent. Yeah. And so they did all home visits?
Yes, all home visits. And then Delilah was breech as well. Yeah. So Mal organised an ECV with Ravi at Monash.
Yeah.
And that was more painful than childbirth. Having her flipped.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say that it doesn't hurt, but she was fully breech, like head right up, right in my ribs.
Yeah.
So to have her flipped was like somebody flipping your stomach. It was the weirdest feeling, but also excruciatingly painful. And I don't want people to not be aware that it is really painful. But they give you like an injection to, I think it's to relax your cervix.
I think it's to relax maybe like the muscles in your tummy so that they can actually try and move it. Yeah.
It's not your cervix. Sorry. I don't even know.
That's all right.
I'm not very good with, to be honest, I'm very good with like anatomy and all of that.
That's all right.
But
so that was successful.
Gives you the shakes.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that either. I was like, why wouldn't you tell me any of this?
Yeah.
But it was successful. Yeah. So my mum was there with me, and she was talking about it last night. She goes, you could actually just hear like this plop, like when she turned. She just went straight into the pelvis, like head down, ready to go.
What? Oh my gosh.
But that was at 38 weeks, and then I was still going for another 4 weeks, month. 5 days.
Yeah, basically 6 weeks. Yeah, 5 weeks. Yeah.
So was more comfortable.
Yeah. Was she breech like for the majority of your pregnancy, or what was your pregnancy like with her?
Pregnancy. Yeah, she was breech. And then so we tried moxibustion, tried doing all the exercises, like the spinning babies stuff, and I was like lying on an ironing board at one stage. Yeah. And none of it worked. Yeah. I was so hopeful that it was, and then every time they checked, they're like, no, sorry. So, 38 weeks we decided to have her flipped because Mel and Ramona weren't comfortable with the breech pregnancy because it was just prior to a lot of midwives doing the Breech Without Borders. Yeah. So they've both done that now. So I'm pretty certain that they're more comfortable and better trained in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a
But at the
whole
end of the day,
like
it was
movement
mine.
that's happening at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Which is
been really
awesome.
good because a lot of people, they just go, I'm just going to go for it and have this baby. If baby comes breech, then that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But it was like a mutual decision between, Mal and myself that
Yeah.
it was probably the best option to have her flipped.
Yeah.
But obviously, like if you don't have like an ultrasound to check all of that, then there's not really anything they can do. But if it was confirmed via ultrasound, I would have had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So no, I think I'm 100% made the right decision for myself because it's like I had a 8-hour labour all up. No, sorry, 6 hours with Delilah, 6 hours all up, and then 8 hours with Bette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And that's really cool that you and the fact that like she stayed head down as well. But if she was like, if she was fully like locked and loaded,
she was. Even Ravi said like, no, she's not turning. Like she's bam in there, and I don't know why she just didn't do it herself. Maybe she possibly could have if I just wrote it out a bit longer, but she was pretty stubborn. We did try a few things beforehand.
Cool. And like during, because, you saw on Instagram about Homebirth and then you chose private midwives, like in terms of like learning about, what happens in home birth and about your body and like how like physiological birth works and everything like that. Did you mostly get information or education or whatever from like organic midwifery, or did you like do your own kind of stuff, or what was that like for you?
It was a bit of both. Mel sent me a lot of information and then a lot of information I found like on Instagram. I just started to get a real interest in like home birth and like physiological birth and like unmedicated births and all of that. And I was adamant that I didn't want any pain medication. So I didn't have anything with any of that, and I'm not the type of person to take anything generally anyway, unless like I am in excruciating pain. I like to just kind of just be left alone, like almost like I just have to go into my own like cocoon, like of just leave me alone. This is my space. This is what I need to do.
Yeah. And your partner, did you have to do like any like, did he have to like work through anything, any fears or anything like that?
No, he was really good. We did do like a birthing class, but neither of us liked it. We thought it was really weird.
Yeah.
They wanted us to like, enact things, and we just like, it was so not us. And it was funny because the things they were like kind of teaching for the males to do, massage the back and hip squeezes and all of that, I didn't want any of that. Like when I was in labor, I was like, please, nobody touch me. I don't want to be touched. Just let me just lie down and deal with it myself. So it worked out quite well. He just did like the filling up of the pool and all of that. Excellent. But we went out that night as well.
Yeah, well,
like,
wow.
Before labor, like I had my show, and then we decided that we were just going to continue with our plans and just go out. Because what's the point in sitting around the home and watching the clock? So we went to a charity event that my sister was playing tennis at.
Cool.
And then we left as soon as I felt like I couldn't sit down because I was sitting on a head.
Yeah.
I was like,
a good time to go.
Time to go home. I think I'm sitting on her head.
Yeah. And you had a doula as well.
Yeah, I had Amanda down as my doula. And she's now a really good friend as well. So
yeah, amazing.
yeah.
How did you, or like, do you remember like what led you to choosing a doula? Like making the decision to like seek out a doula for home birth?
Just from seeing other people's birth stories on
Yeah.
Instagram and just what they shared. And I was like, oh, okay, what's a doula? And then I searched what it
Cool.
was, and I was like, oh, that sounds like something that would be really beneficial for me. Even though, like, it's funny because I'm not like a, I'm not like I don't like being like all touched or anything like that. Or I didn't necessarily feel like I needed emotional support or even really like physical support through it. I was like, oh, okay, great. She can like make food and I was like, oh, maybe like, you know, just somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, they obviously, because you're a doula, you know, like you just help out and just doing stuff. I was like, yeah, I think I could benefit from somebody just helping out, someone who's not my mum, somebody who's not related to me.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it. I was like, yep, it's somebody that I don't know, somebody new who knows about birth and who can come in and just be another set of hands.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
she was great, yeah. And now we're like, yeah, very close friends. So it's worked out really well. And I had her for Bette as well.
Yeah, that's like very, very, very special. And was she, so I think like originally when I put that post out in July or whatever last year, it must have been like, well, I mean, I think we both have probably seen, and I know people will listen to this and, you know, remember other posts and stuff that they've seen about people, you know, going like, you know, post dates and like the emotional sort of roller coaster that can have. Like once you were approaching that 42 weeks and then going over the 42 weeks, did you have like any of those concerns, or did you feel like any pressure placed upon you, or were you like worried about anything in particular? Or
no, I think the best thing, for some reason, I just didn't have that. I wasn't stressed about going over. I was more like, oh, I wonder how far this can take me.
Yeah.
I was like, imagine
Challenge.
if I got to 43 weeks, like what would people be saying, or what would people be thinking?
Yeah.
You know, I had people ask me, they're like, oh, when were you due? I was like, oh, I was due on like I think the 1st of November or something. And they're like, but it's the 15th of November. It was funny, the morning before I went into labour, so the 19th of November, this lady in a shop said, oh, when were you due? And I was like, oh, it was, you know, earlier in the month. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, you could just see the shock in her face. Like, how are you, and they go, how are you allowed? And it's like, what do you mean, how am I allowed?
Yeah, right.
I think it's only my decision.
Yeah, it's literally your body.
Yeah. So, and they're the ones who have like this, you know, they're so scared. And my husband's mum, she was quite scared through the whole process, and she would always message him being like, oh, the baby come yet? He's like, I will tell you as soon as your grandchild arrives.
Yeah.
And they tell me now, you know, we were so scared for you, you know, his mum and his aunties. It's like, but why? I wasn't sick. There was nothing to be scared about. So it's funny that everyone else was, you know, really, you know, frantic about it. But I just thought, like, I was almost, like I'd never really had that feeling like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Oh my God, I'm going to have a baby. Oh, like I'm going to have this little person to look after. I never really had any of those thoughts.
Yeah.
So when like she did come out, I just looked down and she's floating in the water. And I look up at everybody and I go, what do I do? And they go, pick her up. And I was like, oh, okay, but she's like really slimy and gross. I don't like this.
Yeah.
So I was never. I think I was a little bit almost deluded about the whole thing. Like it just kind of all just flowed really like not naturally,
Cool.
but like it just flowed for me, that I never had that like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, like these big moments. It was just, I just wrote it out, and then I had a baby, and I'm pretty sure it was Mel. She said that, you just kind of just picked it up so easily, motherhood, just gone straight into it.
Yeah.
I was like, it's been a pretty easy ride throughout for me.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel bad saying that, because of other people have had, lots of ups and downs, and they've had negative birth experiences. So I don't always talk about how mine just went really smoothly.
Yeah.
But obviously, at the end of the day, it's my story, and I can't.
Yeah, you don't need to censor it for other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, realistically, I still tell people that the 4 months postpartum with Frankie, who I had in June 2023, that 4 months postpartum was the best 4 months of, like, probably my entire life. Like, if I could just relive that 4 months, granted newborn, granted, going 1 to 2, sure, there's challenges. But I felt so amazing. I felt so good. I was so energetic and like happy, and just everything was amazing. And like for most people, that is absolutely not the story they hear about postpartum. And I think, there's definitely some things that you have to be or consider, like, to be realistic about, and consider the possibility of, X, Y, Z, but also consider, like, well, what if it just goes well, and what if it's actually completely fine and it's really enjoyable and you actually don't struggle, like, because that's possible too.
Yeah. And that should be the norm with all of it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be just talking about all the negatives, and I need to remember that, yes, obviously don't censor my positive experience, because I might feel that somebody has like almost, like a jealousy or something over how my experience went. But it's hard. It's hard not to feel for other women and want them to have had that really great experience, and they just haven't been able to get it. But obviously, by not talking about my great experience, then it's just one less good experience that people aren't hearing as well.
Yeah. So was the first sign of labor did you say you had like a bloody show or something? Or something? Yeah,
that night.
Did you have like any other signs in the lead up to that?
No.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
So the morning before, so the 19th, my mum was like, we've got to get this baby out of you. Like, this is getting ridiculous now. So we're going for a big walk. So we walked from like one end of Hampton Street to the other end, and then back, and it was like 6 kilometre walk.
Wow.
And I'm like not even fit at all, so I don't even know how I managed. I was like, okay, the only way I'm walking all the way up there is if I can get something to eat at the end.
Yeah.
And then just got on with my day, and then that night we went to watch my sister play tennis. She was doing a 24-hour tennis tournament.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we went along to that, had some food. I think I just ate like kebab meat or something. And then I said to my husband, all right, we got to go, because I am sitting on a head. He had to drive home because I had to hold myself up in the car seat the whole way
Wow.
home.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
was like, I'm really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Got home, hungry again. I was like, all I can think about is kebab meat. Do not recommend at all. Like it wasn't a good choice because it all comes back up again. So if you're in labour, don't eat kebab meat.
That's actually really funny because I'm pretty sure in the episode that was released this week, the mum shares that was the common denominator in her like 3 births, and so she was recommending
Oh, she was
to eat
recommending
kebabs.
it. Oh, yeah. No, it's a bit, maybe like something a bit more plain. Like, I mean, you could probably still go meat, but yeah, I don't know where we just got on Uber Eats, so maybe she made her own. Got like some dodgy kebab meat, but it was a bit full on.
Gosh, yeah.
So yeah, and then I just laboured at home and just doing that. Everyone keeps telling you, oh, with your first, just be aware you'll be in labour for a really long time. So then I'm umming and ahhing, like, am I in labour? Like, my contractions were so random as well. But my doula, Amanda, she said, but if you kind of like average them out, like, you know, you're really close together. So thank gosh for her, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. Like, she was the best person at my birth, like, you know, far better than my husband, far better than my mom, far better than the midwives. She's my favorite person.
That's beautiful.
So the person that I just remember just needing the most was Amanda. And so I made a great choice with her. And I was like, I'm sorry, I know it's your birthday, but can you come to my house, please? I'm having a baby. But I mean, what, like, for her, she even said, like, what a great experience, you know, that she was born on her birthday. I mean, no better birthday present for both Amanda and my mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
They should both feel very lucky.
Lucky
that Delilah decided on that day.
Yeah, she was the gift.
Yeah, so my mum was there as well, and she was great, like, through my whole pregnancy, and she was great whilst I was in labour as well. She wasn't on board at the start, though, when I told her about the home birth. She said some not great things, but I think it came more from just fear than anything else. But
how did you like, did she meet with the midwives or with your doula, or like how did she come around?
She came to my birth plan meeting, which was really great. Cool. I basically just said, look, you've got to be on board with me with this if you want to be there.
Yeah.
And then I sent her some information about home birth, and all of a sudden she's the biggest advocate, and she's telling everyone, oh, my daughter's having a home birth. And then afterwards, like, after it was, like, you know, really positive experience, she tells everybody, you know, oh my God, I was there, I helped, all of this, you know, I could be a midwife. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Because because everything happened so fast as well.
Yeah.
So
you get home in the evening from the tennis thing.
Like around 9 p.m. And then it just kicked off from there. I tried, like, the shower and everything. I tried a TENS machine. TENS machine, I just not a fan.
Yeah.
If you hate the feeling of pins and needles, is exactly what it felt like to me. So I was like, no, I can't do this. So I basically just, like, laid on the bed, and Amanda got there. Delilah was born at 3:18 a.m.
Yeah.
Amanda got there not, like, maybe I think I say like 45 minutes, maybe like an hour before, but I could be wrong. Could have been a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
She just said, oh, can I just can I just have a look? And I was like, yeah, go for it. And she's like, okay, we need to get you in the water. Because I was like, I was involuntarily pushing on the bed, and then my water broke
well, yeah,
on the bed, and I remember, like, I don't remember which midwife it was, but they were telling me, like, oh no, it wasn't, no, different birth. My mum was saying, no, you're not ready to push. And Amanda was like, no, we need to get the midwives here, and we need to get them here right now because she's ready to push. Like, she's involuntarily pushing. She took the phone from my mum, was like, get here now.
Wow,
this baby is coming. So they got here, Mal and Ramona got here with about 18 minutes before Delilah was born.
Yeah.
And they just said, you need to push her out right now. So I, pushed her out, and out she flew into the water. It was slimy alien thing. It was so foreign to me. You know, no matter how many, like, you can watch all these videos, but your own experience is something else. Like, how you're going to react to it, you never know until you're there in the moment. And I didn't have that, like, oh my God, this is beautiful. I just had this, like, it's just, slimy. And I'm holding her up to me, and she's just, she's slimy. And they're saying, oh, you know, they're going, blow in her face, you know, talk to her. Like, 'cause you want to, like, kind of shock them to take that, take that breath. Because I had to push her out quite fast. And they're like, and Matt, he almost passed out. Because he was, like, thinking, oh, she's not breathing, but she was obviously still connected to the placenta and everything. And there was, like, a little bit of, like, they were thinking they might have had to give her a little bit of oxygen. But they had all that set up. But no, she was fine. I was just needed to be a bit more rough. You don't realize you've got to actually, like, really kind of get in there and get them to just take that breath. But I had absolutely no idea, and I don't think my midwives knew that I would have zero idea as soon as she came out. They probably thought that I had, like, would have somewhat of, like, that kind of, like, maternal instinct just to, like, know what to do, but I didn't. The fact that I have a vivid memory of just seeing her in the water and looking up at me, and she was just like, like purple, like that, you know, that purpley color when they come out. And just looking up at all these people standing at the pool as I'm just kind of sitting there. I was like, what do I do? And it's like, pick her up. It's like, oh, okay, sorry.
I have heard that quite a few times with quick births, that, like, sort of like, oh, like, you know, because you're also, you know, you generally, like, you know, you've been in labor land, and then just before the baby's born, then, like, your adrenaline goes up because you need to, like, your body has to, like, prime itself to, like, get out of labor land to actually pick the baby up. And that, like, transition, especially if it's, like, happened so quick, can be, like, quite like, oh, there's a baby, and, like, oh, I've got to pick it up, and oh my gosh, quick. What just happened?
It was really fast. And then you know, I'm holding her, and my dad, because it was actually so fast, like, he basically dropped my mum off, then drove home, and then she's like, oh, you might as well just come back because baby's going to be here any moment. So he, like, came back. He had, like, a 15-minute power nap. And he came back, and it was really special because he, like, came to the room, and I was still, like, in the water. I'm holding Delilah.
Wow.
I've got the placenta just, like, sitting, like, in this bowl. There's a really nice photo of the two of us just talking. And he's like, oh, this is such a beautiful photo. Like, can I post it? But I've cropped out the bloody bagpipes.
The bloody bagpipes.
And I'm like, that's fine, Dad. Like, you can post that. But it's a really beautiful photo that Amanda took of the two of us. So she took some photos, which was really nice. I just said, please, just I don't want any photos of my bum hole, please. Like that was just off that was just off bounds. I just
To be honest, that's where I personally draw the line as well. So.
Yeah, I was like, please, just
Yeah.
You can all look at it if you need to, or if it's just there and you've got nowhere else to look. But please, no photos. Yeah, because my mum was actually standing behind, behind the whole time. So she got like that back view, and I'm just thinking, like, I don't know why anyone would choose that view, but okay, mum, like she was
yeah, but that's not what you're actually looking at.
No,
like you're,
she was having a great time. Like it was such a great experience for her to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like that's, I feel like in home birth, like, because you can have whoever you want there, that the power that could have, like, generationally, like that exposure and the changing of the narrative of what physiological birth looks like, I feel like that ripples, because like your mom's going to tell a heap of other people, and then maybe like when like one of their family members or friends like is thinking about home birth, then maybe instead of like all the fear mongering, maybe they'll be like, oh, well, I know somebody whose daughter had a home birth and she had a really good experience, and like, copy and paste like many, many times. And hopefully we can find our way back to, appreciating and respecting birth in that physiological way.
Yeah, well, 100%. Because it all just comes down to word of mouth a lot of the time. As well, when other people hear about, how great experience it was, like as somebody who's not actually the birthing mother, someone who's just, gets to be there to experience, their firstborn daughter, to have her firstborn daughter. I mean, it's a pretty special experience. And then, and then she got to have it again as well.
Wow. So Delilah, how old did you say Delilah was when Bette was born?
So she was 23 months.
Yeah, cool. And what was your pregnancy like with Bette? Was it like just a given that you were going, like once you found out you were pregnant, that you were going to have a home birth again?
Oh yeah, and I got in contact with the same girl, so organic midwifery. Unfortunately, like when it came around to it, it was Mel's scheduled weekend off, so Ramona became my primary, and then she brought Helen along with her, who they work with as well. However, they didn't get there until I think 30 or 40 minutes after Bette was born.
Wow! Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So, what was your pregnancy like with Bette in comparison to Delilah?
Yeah, it was relatively the same. She wasn't breech. She was like, her bum was just causing me so much pain. And then I got a little bit sick, and when I was coughing, I had to push her bum down so I could cough because the positioning that she was in. Her bum was just sticking right up the top of my stomach. Yeah. But it was, I had that same like metallic taste in my mouth that I had with Delilah. I thought it was going to be different because I was eating differently. So I was vegan with Delilah, still halfway through Delilah's, my pregnancy with Delilah. Yeah. And then, obviously not being vegan like at all with Bette. But no, they were, pretty much the same. Everything tasted terrible, tired, sore back, just the usual pregnancy stuff. But I didn't have, like, some people have terrible pregnancies, and I really feel for them, and I didn't have a terrible pregnancy. I just had an all right pregnancy.
Yeah. How did you find being pregnant with, like, Delilah? Because, like, I guess I reflect on Frankie, who's 19 months now, and thankfully when I had Frankie, Murphy was 3. But if I can imagine Frankie right now and if I was pregnant, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, how did you find that experience, like being pregnant, chasing after a toddler, I guess?
Yeah, that was fun because I couldn't fit to like get in little places and stuff that like she'd get stuck in. You go to the play center and then she climbs all the way up to the top and I couldn't fit through certain areas, so that I had to send my brother. I mean, and he could barely fit through certain areas, but at least his was just, he could move his stomach a bit easier than I could move mine. Mine was a bit of a hard lump, whereas his was a bit softer. But it was. But it was also just like you have no choice. You just got to get on
totally.
with it.
Yeah.
And I would have like naps with her when she would have her naps, which was just great. So that was a positive. And also, you kind of you don't have that like huge amount of time in between to like get back to like any type of, I didn't really get into any like routine or anything like that. So it was just like a wham bam, like, oh, here we go, my life is chaotic, as per usual. So no, but it was just funny, like when she'd have like tantrums. If I went to the shopping center and she'd have tantrums and I'm like almost, like I'm almost ready to pop and I'm having to carry this kid out of the supermarket while she's having a tantrum. And people would just look at me and I'd be like, I am too pregnant to deal with this and to deal with your looks and whatever.
Totally. Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I was in a state, but it was a much quicker pregnancy than with Delilah. I felt like I was pregnant forever with Delilah, whereas Bette just went super fast.
A lot more distracted, right?
Yeah. Well, I was sitting to my friend. I was like, "Where'd that whole year go?" And she's like, She's like, "Well, we were pregnant at the same time." She goes, "We were just trying to survive." Like, yeah. Oh yeah.
Did Delilah? Was she at the birth of Bette, or was
she was asleep? Yeah. So she was awake at the start as I was having contractions, and I've got a photo of her and she's sitting on top of me. I'm lying on the bed in the middle of a contraction and she's just bouncing on me.
Oh my gosh, classic.
So that was great. And then my mum was like timing the contractions and she fell asleep. So my mum's next to me snoring. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I'm just like trying to be quiet while having contractions. But I'm generally quiet anyway. When like I'm in pain, I kind of just like, go into myself. I never like, it's funny because like I swear constantly, like I'm actually surprised I haven't tonight. But I'm just, I swear and yell and all of that. But when I was in labour, I'm just really quiet and really reserved. I was saying like, please and thank you to people. And
interesting.
My Amanda, she was like, she's like, it was just not like you at all. Like you didn't even swear. Like she said, your mum like went to rub your back at one stage and you just said, oh please don't touch me. And she's like, I was expecting you to be like, don't effing touch me. But she was like, oh, could you please do this for me? Or could you please do it? Oh, thank you. She's like, you were so polite.
Interesting. Yeah.
And quiet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have that like primal kind of roaring or anything. I just
went inside yourself. And how many weeks were you with Bette when you went into labour?
41 and 5.
Okay. Yeah.
So a week difference.
Yeah. And did you have any signs of labour in the lead up to that?
Just the day before the evening of going into labour, I wasn't feeling very well, and my mum came over and she was like, oh, your stomach is really soft. Whereas I didn't have that with Delilah. Basically, it was almost like it half deflated.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, wow, it is really soft. So she must have like just dropped because she was posterior as well. So they did say that you're most likely going to have a longer labor because it takes a while for the baby to like kind of come around and then come down and all of that. But no, that is not what happened. She came out so fast.
Yeah. And so how many hours was the labour with Bette?
I think it was about 8 hours.
Yeah. So a little bit longer than Delilah's.
A little bit longer and different as well. I felt that it was a bit harder. I don't know if it was like mentally harder or because I didn't really remember like any of the discomfort or pain that was associated with Delilah's birth. It's almost like that's just kind of like gone from my memory, and it was just like I think it's because I was also like maybe there was like more going on, like more people were kind of around. Whereas with Bette, like my mum fell asleep for a bit. My husband, he was asleep on the couch. Delilah was asleep as well. So it was a bit more quiet and I was a bit just more on my own.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of getting like really uncomfortable, and that's when my mum decided, to get me into the water.
Yeah.
And thinking that it was going to be like, longer as posterior usually is. But no, and I knew she was going to be born before the midwives could get here as well. But Amanda was here, and that didn't concern me in the slightest. I just knew, like, in the back of my head, and Amanda's on the phone to Ramona just saying, oh, yeah, like, you're on your way, cool. And she was saying, like, oh, if, basically don't push. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. This baby is coming out. This baby's coming out right now. And I just changed positions and the head just went straight down.
Wow.
So she just kind of must have just done it like one of those. It's very like rare apparently that happens when they're posterior. They just kind of just do it really quick.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I have to push. And basically I think I maybe like pushed once or twice and she was out.
Yeah.
But my husband was like saying her head came down. He's like, her head came down. And he's like, your vagina was like this big. My mum's like, like what? The size of a baby's head?
Yeah, like, a literal human came out of there. Like, give me a break.
She went back up, and then that's when I was like, no, and then I like pushed her out. I think it was 2 pushes.
Wow.
And then she was out. The cord was around her neck, and I remembered all the stuff from Delilah. Yep, unwrap the cord, pat them, blow in their face. I was like much more like I know what I'm doing. I could hear my mum going the cord, and I'm just like I am like in the zone, and just I've ignored everybody. I've ignored everything that's going on around me. I know what I'm doing. So that was incredible because it was pretty much like an accidental free birth.
I mean, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. And so how long after Bette was born did the midwives arrive, roughly?
I think it was about 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, cool.
So my mum...
And so did the placenta come in that time?
They're like, get her out of the water, just, for blood. But they wanted to obviously how much blood there is, and because they weren't there, they couldn't see. And my Amanda said, so Amanda, my doula, she said, I've got to call the like ambulance. I think just by law, if there's no midwives present, they have to call not an ambulance, like just call paramedics.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was just saying that because she was on the phone to Ramona at the time. She was just saying to Ramona that's what she needs to do. Ramona's like, that's all right, I'll talk you through everything that needs to be done. So Ramona stayed on the phone to Amanda and they just talked it through.
Yeah.
And I didn't, even that, her making that comment, it concerned my mum, but it didn't concern me because I was like, I completely trust Amanda. Like, I know what she's doing. And yeah, I was like, but she knows, like, I said to her afterwards, like, you don't have to underestimate yourself. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, you are, yeah. Because she's like, I didn't want to alarm you or anything. I was like, no. I trust that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, basically said, oh, okay, you've been in the water for probably long enough. Like, let's get you out to the couch.
Yeah.
And have the placenta out on the couch. Anyway, I stood up and I was like, and I'm holding Bette, and everyone's like holding on to me.
Yeah.
To get me out of the pool. And I was like, oh, sorry. And then just like fell out. I just flopped. And then Amanda's having to search for it. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry about that. And she's like, no, this is the fun part. She's like searching through the water for it.
Like a jellyfish.
Yeah. So we got
my
that.
Goodness.
And then I went and just basically, sat on the couch and just waited for Ramona and Helen to come around. They did all the weighing and all of that as well. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And so what time was Bette born roughly?
I think at 4:01.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
and
that.
when did Delilah get to meet her baby sister?
Pretty much as soon as they got onto the couch, she came out and she was just had no idea what was going on. There's like photos and she's just absolutely exhausted and she's kind of got this like half smile, half like just terrified look on her face. Because you'd say to her like, oh, what's in mummy's tummy? She'd say, oh, baby, but she didn't really have much of a concept of it because she's still quite young.
Yeah, of course.
Because you'd say, oh, what's in Pops's tummy? She'd go, baby. It's like, so everyone had a baby in their tummy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, but she's much better with her now. Took a while. But no, now she likes her. We've gotten past the pinching and throwing stage and
excellent.
All of that. But it was very special just having everybody at home and then just being able just to get into bed with everybody. And it's such a nicer experience than going somewhere and having to organise somebody to look after your kid and all the rest. I did have my sister just in case we needed an extra set of hands because my parents, they were in the US, I think, until my due date. They were still going to be away. So it was good that she was also, she was 1 week, 5 days. Not as much as Delilah, but so my mum only got home from the US like a couple of days before.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was tired.
Sounds like Bette chose her timing sleep as well.
Yes, yeah. That's why I let her have a nap as I'm having contractions. She's lying next to me snoring.
Yeah. That's so special that she was able to be there and like so amazing that you had the same doula and like that's brilliant. That's you don't really hear that happening too often. So I think that's a really special story that even that's possible as well.
Yeah, well, it's like obviously didn't intentionally mean to have like a free birth. I guess it was an accidental one. Yeah. But even then, like it was. There was never any fear involved in any of it. I had a very straightforward birth with Delilah. I just trusted that this is, you can't, once you need to push, you need to push. Like there's no there is no stopping that, especially with a second.
Yeah.
And yeah, it all worked out. My mum is, she likes to call herself a midwife now. She delivered.
Yeah, well, 2 home births. I mean, most midwives haven't even seen one, so to see 2, that's pretty incredible.
It is. And, like with Delilah being 42 weeks, 5 days, I see a lot of people, getting to like they're past their due date and they start to get all that fear. But there is nothing to be scared of going over. Like, your baby will come when they're ready. And there's a lot of other things to take into consideration. Like, my cycle was like very random and irregular and all of that. And that could have, a lot of the time that can make people go longer than some others, or basically your baby just needs a little bit of extra time. But yeah, I wish more people would just trust the process and have more trust in their body, because your body knows what it's doing. Like, women know how to birth.
Yeah,
that baby
I agree.
is coming out, and what better way than just to wait, and it will come out when it's ready, and it will be a much smoother process than if you have any type of interference. As there's so much evidence that goes to show that if you have any type of induction, the rates of instrumental or cesarean just go up. It's ridiculous. And then you've got things that people don't like. Then you got like postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, all of that, because you've got to like process everything that you've been through, and then all the other bits and pieces that go into it. So you want the best outcome, home birth, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I'm so grateful to have your story out there, especially with Delilah, because it's really, really important that we share these stories so that people know what's possible, and that you had like such an amazing experience, and everybody was healthy and safe and alive, and it wasn't like what some people would have you believe if you didn't know any better. So, I'm really grateful for you taking the time to share your story. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about or mention or anything?
Well, we've covered most things that I can remember about both births, but just the best thing that you can do is having the right care team and the right people in your birth space as well. I had my mum there. I love my mum dearly. But just because, someone is family doesn't mean you have to have them at your birth or anything like that. But I had my mum, my dad, and my husband. My sister was almost going to come as well. So it's family affair.
Yeah.
You can just have everyone's a party.
Yeah.
It was a party in my house. Yeah.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that in a home birth. I saw somebody post on Facebook, like a mum's group tonight, to ask if somebody knew at this particular hospital when their like other child would be allowed to come and visit to meet the baby. And I just thought, that's that's the norm. Like, for 98% of people, or whatever the stat is, like, that's the norm, that you like,
and what a question
you have to have like and like, even like, I can't imagine how stressful that must be to want a physiological birth in a hospital and have another child, and how do you set up the care for that other child if you know, it really does kind of like force you into considering timed things like induction or C-section so that you can have some control because, the uncertainty of physiological labor and birth doesn't really work with today's, time constraints that are literally placed on everything.
Yeah.
So I think, a family affair is beautiful.
The stress of, especially like if your child is quite young or they struggle being away from you, like how long are they potentially going to be away? And then trying to be in a particular mind frame and thinking about your other child, like, oh, are they okay? You know, hopefully they're not, being a pain to looking after them. Like Delilah, she's great, but she is hard work, and that would have stressed me out. Like I even said, like, no, nobody take her away, nobody take her for a sleepover or anything. Like you come and you look after her at her home, because I would be personally freaking out trying to, have another baby and just be constantly thinking about Delilah and, is she okay? So being at home and having her is here, like at home where she belongs, is just such a better option. And then, you don't know how many people you can have in there. You don't know when they can visit. They've got visiting hours. You don't even know necessarily, like, if you're going to get to hospital, there's going to be a room for you. I've heard of people having to birth, in the emergency area, or like a makeshift room. Like, you don't know what the hospital's going to be like. It's been pretty chaotic since the whole COVID schmozzle.
Schmozzle, that's a good way to put it.
So you just never know, like, what you're going to get into. But also there is that expense. A lot of people can't necessarily afford to have a home birth, but it's something that you don't need all the fancy schmancy baby stuff. What you need to invest in is a positive to have a positive pregnancy and birth. People spend hundreds of thousands on like weddings and cars and this, that, and the other, and they don't think that their labour and their birth should cost them anything. They're just no, I'll be fine, I'll go through the public system.
So I can, and I mean, prams are very expensive, but they'd rather have the latest fanciest pram than to put that money into actually but I think people also just don't know that they have to do the work, that the hospital is not on their side. The hospital's on the hospital side, not on the individual side. The hospital doesn't really care. Like,
no, they don't.
It's only worried about keeping itself running, and
and you go to hospital, or you go to the doctors or whatever. You go when you're sick, and pregnancy is not an illness. So why is it being treated like one? And then you go into hospital and they just monitor you and they stick you on all these machines and you got things beeping at you, and then you got all the bright lights on, and then they might turn the lights off, but then someone new walks into the room and goes, oh, why are the lights off? And they turn the lights on.
It
just completely takes you out of the zone.
Or the air conditioner. Most likely you have no control over the air conditioner because it's all centralized somewhere.
And hospitals are
that does, and that like everyone feels differently in labor, and like it's a very intricate sort of process. But I mean, I could literally speak for hours about that. I feel very passionate about it. But it's been awesome to speak to you and to hear your story. And I'm really grateful to have this story out there in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.